Hello and welcome to Save Your Sanity live stream. I'm Dr. Roberta Shaler, and tonight we're going to be talking about this very, very, very difficult to put your finger on sometimes concept of blame shifting. So we're going to have a deep conversation about that and how you can counteract it. For those of you who've been attending, I am so glad that you have been listening, and hopefully you've got some context to put this new idea into. I know you know what it feels like, and you will remember even more how it feels as you learn the more subtle aspects of blame shifting tonight. You know that you can always listen to other editions of Save Your Sanity podcast at SaveYourSanityPodcast.com. And if you'd like to support Save Your Sanity, please go to patreon.com/saveyoursanity, and you can make a monthly donation of $1 or $2 or $10 over there. So let's get on to this topic of blame shifting, because we talk about all these things over at forrelationshiphelp.com, which is my website, and there's lots of good information there for you, lots of blogs, videos, all of that, as well as on my YouTube channel, which also has the same name, For Relationship Help. So blame shifting, counteracting this crazy making way narcissists and other hijackals have of trying to win, trying to have power over you. Now, just the very name blame shifting, you get it, right? You want to talk about something, or you think they have done something, or they have done something. And if you bring it up, somehow it makes its way 180 degrees around, and all of a sudden you're being blamed either for that, or for something larger than that, or for something entirely other than that, because they just have to blame. They don't take any responsibility. Narcissists are never responsible or accountable. You've noticed that, right? It is never the case that they are at fault. It's always somebody else. Even if they're blaming the weather or the IRS, they are going to blame somebody for whatever is happening to them. And when we're talking about blame shifting, we're really talking about blaming the victim of what they did. And they shift the blame to the victim of their own behaviors. Very crazy making, but can be very subtle to catch in the moment. And I want to help you do that, because I want to give you ways to counteract that. So you have to be able to catch it. You have to be able to hear it, know it for what it is, and catch it right away quick. I want you to understand, and I want to help you refuse to accept the shift. Now, only you know whether or not you did or didn't have a part in whatever the conversation is. And of course, as a responsible human, you may be able to own a part of it if, in fact, you were wrong. But blame shifting on the part of a hijackal, a narcissist, a sociopath, a psychopath, is to get you to take the blame for something they did and get them off the hot seat. And that's because narcissists and other hijackals, they cannot tolerate anything that they believe, even in the tiniest way, is shaming. So blame to them is shaming. They're not good enough. They made a mistake. They have a flaw. They didn't do well. And they are so super sensitive to that, that they are not going to take that on board. And you will find that they will turn it around. Haven't you ever had this situation where you carefully explain what it was that made you feel badly, or how it would have been better to do something? And then they end up in a place that says something like, well, I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't been on my back all the time. What are we talking about, me being on your back? We're not. But they have shifted the blame to say, well, my behavior, whatever I did, doesn't count because you have a much larger fault. And that is crazy making behavior. And it's crazy making to be with a hijackal. When I wrote Stop, That's Crazy Making, How to Quit Playing the Passive Aggressive Game, that was long before I wrote the hijackal books. But know this, passive aggressive people are not necessarily hijackals, but all hijackals are passive aggressive. So it's important for us to understand that they're not going to take responsibility, but you knew that already. So one of the dynamics that makes blame shifting happen is a hijacker honestly believes that you care, that you love them, that you are dependent on them to such a degree that you will wear what they throw at you, that you are that enmeshed with them, that they have you under spell, and therefore they can do and say anything, and you will accept it. Now, some people do accept it because they have a very low opinion of themselves. And that's certainly been helped by being around a hijackal. I know that for sure, right? And being around a hijackal, you will constantly be put down, worn down, torn down, degraded, demeaned, dismissed, discounted. And so it can definitely lower your self-esteem. But if the hijackal thinks that you love him or her, that you care so much for them that you'll go to extra lengths, or that you're dependent on them in any way, then they are more likely to do this blame shifting. And they honestly believe they can feed you a version of the story you're trying to tell back to you and get you to take responsibility for the story that is all about them. They're just going to turn the tables and push it back in your direction, as they usually do. But so many little concepts to understand. And I don't mean that they don't have a huge impact. They do, but little tiny parts of the whole predictable nature of hijackals is what I mean by little. So this little piece that they can take the story you handed them, which is about them, and turn it back and make it about you and make you the bad guy. That's the blame shifting piece. And it's even more subtle than gaslighting sometimes, because when they're trying to tell you, which gaslighting is, they try to tell you what your reality is, define your reality for you. When they're trying to define your reality for you, you can be going, no, that's not true. No, no. And yet when they're blame shifting, they do it in such a way that causes you to second guess yourself. And in that moment, you're thinking, because you're a good person, you're thinking, well, was some of it my fault? Could I have prevented it? Did I not take responsibility for it? Was I not too present? Did I make a mistake? And that's healthy, that you have a look at your own behavior. But when you start seeing this pattern of blame shifting, notice if you get caught in that paradigm of, I'm going to get blamed for it anyway, and you no longer even think to do something about the blame. And I want to help you do that tonight, because as a good person, you're going to take responsibility. You're going to be accountable for yourself. You may go the extra mile. You may give the benefit of the doubt too often. You may be a person who rationalizes and excuses and justifies another person's outrageous behavior too much. And oh, that'll make you very, very, very attractive to a hijackal. Very, very, very attractive. So let's have a look at this whole thing about blame shifting, because it is a power game and we have to recognize it for what it is. You know, in episode 115, I talked about the 3 must-haves of a healthy adult relationship. Well, you are not going to have the 3 must-haves of a healthy adult relationship with a hijackal, a narcissist, anybody leaning in those directions, because it requires, number 1, equality. And they will not entertain the idea of equality between you. You know that. So basically, right there, all of it is a power game, and blame shifting is a part of that power game, and it will go on. And so it's important for you to notice that. Also notice that blame shifting is emotionally abusive. Call it for what it is. Don't say that to the hijackal. Remember the cardinal rule, never poke a hijackal. It never goes well. It never gets you the results you want. So don't do it. It's a waste of your energy. And you could get hurt in the process because they'll come back and they'll say whatever they want to say to take you down a notch or 20. That's not good. So this power game and this emotional abuse, it has to end. And as I said, when the hijackal believes that there is inequity, that the victim loves or needs or depends on the hijackal more than the hijackal needs or depends or loves them, that imbalance is breeding ground for blame shifting, and we need to be aware of it. So the hijackal is going to exploit your fears and your weaknesses. Now, let's just think about this. You long for some kind of equitable conversation, some love. You want them to throw you some love, some tenderness, something. So when they do it, be careful, because what they're looking for is for you to have tender moments. And then because you are overreacting to the tenderness and have been longing for it so much, that you might tell them your secrets. You might tell them your weaknesses. You might tell them your fears. And in that tenderness, you think, oh, they want to get to know me. They want to take care of me. I'm going to share. I'm going to disclose this, and this will draw us closer. No, what they're looking for is ammunition, and you're giving it to them. They are going to exploit those fears and vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and they're going to use them. So knowing that about a hijackal, be very wary if they want to get close to you. Once you recognize the behaviors, I know you're longing for them to get close to you, but you have to come to the place where you can calibrate. Why do they want to get close to me right now? What's up? What's going on? And it's awful that you have to think that way about the person that you hoped you were in a love relationship with, but you do have to think that way when you're with the hijackal, because they're just looking to exploit these things. Haven't you ever had that moment when you told a hijackal something in those tender moments, and then maybe you're at a family event or a dinner party with friends, and then they make a joke at your expense about that very thing, and you are so embarrassed and so hurt? And then if you behave as though you're embarrassed and hurt, they tell you, what's wrong? You're too sensitive. You've got thin skin. Can't you take a joke? And that's because you wanted that closeness, you gave that disclosure, and they used it as ammunition. So don't be giving that out, because hijackals count on your fear of conflict. They're counting on that you're not going to come back to them. You're not going to make a scene. You're not going to push the issue. You are not going to keep at it, because you don't want further conflict. And they've taught you that further conflict never goes in your favor. So they pretty much have a self-fulfilling prophecy there. So you have to be very aware of that, and know that blame shifting always allows the hijackal to avoid responsibility, to avoid accountability, and turn the tables on you. So you also know that not only do you not poke a hijackal, but you're very particular what you address with a hijackal once you realize you're with one. Because if you address things that you know you are not going to get any traction with, and you're not going to get traction with much, but if you address things that you already know don't fly, you just give them power over you. So it's very important, and I tell my clients this all the time, and if you want to be my client, use the new client introductory offer for only $97, and you find that at beaclient.com. I'll put it right there for you. But when I'm talking with my clients, and I'm talking to them about this very thing, about them counting on your fear of conflict and their avoidance of responsibility, then it becomes very important to say, observe their behavior, don't react to their behavior. Start stepping back and saying, what do they usually do? How are they usually treating me? What are their tactics and strategies? And step back and observe their behavior. Don't react to it, don't respond to it. Stay as neutral as you can and observe it. And then make decisions from your observations over time. If you go head on with a hijackal over and over and over, and it's hard, I know, that you keep having hope that they will listen to you, care, they will want to hear from you, they will care about the children, they will care about so many things, and you bring it up, and repeatedly, somehow, you get put down, and you are blame shifted. Start noticing those patterns, observe those patterns. And when you can recognize that those patterns are something that you don't want to live with, you don't want to engage with, or you don't want your children to see and model and think that's healthy, then you may be having to make some decisions or some changes. So let's talk about what not to do. Okay, we're not poking any hijackals, so that's important. We're not going to get angry. I mean, not that your anger is not appropriate. Anger is healthy, but the way you express anger can be very unhealthy, particularly when you're at the end of your tether, right? And so you want to be able to express your anger to someone who's going to listen. And usually, the place that you're going to have the most effective way of talking about that is with a therapist who really understands narcissistic and hijackal behavior. And I say that really carefully because there are lots and lots and lots of wonderful people out there in the mental health profession. But if they don't specialize in dealing with hijackals and other difficult humans, they may not be able to help you with the insights that you need and the understanding that you must crave and you must find. So make sure that you get some help, because what not to do when you're in a situation with a hijackal where you have said, this isn't working very well. What could we do about this? And they start to do some blame shifting. Oh, you're always at me about something. Oh, are we gonna go through this again? What's wrong? Am I not good enough for you? Oh, you really have high standards for somebody who is so low on the totem pole. You know the kinds of things that they say to you. They just want to cut you off at the knees and leave you bleeding, and that's not good. So what not to do? These are new things. They're going to mean you're going to have to take a deep breath, exhale, and remind yourself, I do not need to explain myself. I have put the issue there. I am not going to go in tedious long explanations, give them more ammunition. I do not need to explain myself. I have explained the issue. You see the distinction? I have explained the issue. If it comes back to be personalized and blaming me because the blame has shifted, I do not explain myself. That's a waste of energy, breath, and time, and it will not work. Another thing not to do, don't defend your name. They will call you names. They will put labels on you. They will say, you always do that, and you're never attentive, and I've never had a moment's peace with you, and I know that there's no love, and you know how they go on. So don't defend your name. Don't jump in and say, oh, do, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for power over you. Defend yourself. That's not going to help. You know that, right? Because you've tried it and it didn't help. It generally doesn't help. And another thing not to do is to shame the hijackal. And I know you just want to cut them down to size and tell them exactly how it is, and it's tough. You'll get scars on your tongue, but don't shame the hijackal. Why? Because hijackals are petrified of shame. As I said earlier, you can say the most benign thing, but they will interpret it as you shaming them. And that is their biggest fear. That is their greatest vulnerability. So if you do it on purpose, you are just asking to blow up the conversation, the relationship, the room. Will not go well. So don't shame a hijackal. I'm asking a lot, right? Because you're involved. Your feelings are involved. You're righteously indignant. You know that something was unfair. You know something was left undone that was promised. You know that the hijackal is at fault, but they're not going to accept any fault. They're not going to accept any responsibility. So sadly enough, you have to do the work. You have to change because they won't. So don't shame the hijackal. It doesn't work. You can talk about an issue, don't blame the hijackal or shame the hijackal. And the last thing not to do for sure is try to prove your point. Don't elaborate. Don't give examples. Don't go, well, you did it on this day and this day and the other day. And it's not the right thing to do. And good people don't behave that way. And I don't even know what to make of you. Don't try and prove your point. Try to be right, because that just puts a meter for putting you down. And that will not help. And they will start shifting blame your way. And when that happens, it's a losing proposition. So, hijackals look for reaction. If you do not react, you're in observe mode. Oh, big step. Big positive step. If you can just, you're not walking away, you're not having a look on your face of disgust, nothing, you are just observing. And when you can do that, and they don't get a reaction, they will poke. They will want a reaction. Well, what, don't you care? Aren't you going to fight for it? What's up with you? You know all the things they say, but your strength starts to show up when you do not give them the reaction they're looking for. And it's not a game. It's that you understand the pattern that they're looking for. And when you interrupt that pattern and you don't give it to them, then you begin to take up the space that you deserve to take up in the relationship. I hope that's abundantly clear. So those are the things definitely not to do. But now, what do we do to counteract this blame shifting? This everything's going to be your fault, even though you're endeavoring to discuss things that are their fault. And one of the things that is important to know is not what not to do, we've covered, but what to avoid doing is important, as is what to do. So, in that observation capacity, you want to be affirming yourself neutrally. So you're blamed for something and the shift has happened and you're being blamed for something, and you affirm neutrally, that's not the way I remember it. Or, I don't recall that happening. Or, I think that's a mistaken interpretation of my intention. And you just calmly, neutrally speak about yourself. In my book, Kaizen for Couples, that's where I put all the juice about how to be in a relationship. And any relationship, just because it's called Kaizen for Couples, doesn't mean it's only for couples. It's for anybody who wants to be in a healthy adult relationship. But in Kaizen for Couples, I talk about being able to speak neutrally, to be able to use in chapters 6 and 7 my strategy, the personal weather report. That's really important, and I've done videos on it. So if you're on YouTube on my channel for Relationship Help, just search for the personal weather report, and I've done some videos to help you understand it. But basically, here's the premise: that when you know that you deserve to take up space and draw breath on this earth, then you will know that you have the right to say what you think, feel, need, want, remember, or prefer, as long as you do not mention another human by name or pronoun. That's my definition of assertiveness, too. You have the right to say what you think, feel, need, want, prefer, and remember, as long as you do not mention another person by name or pronoun. So, when you are going to affirm yourself neutrally, you have the absolute right to say, no, that's not what I intended. No, that's not what I remember. What I remember is this. Whatever it is, just affirm yourself neutrally. Now, it's not going to make a big dent in the conversation. It's not even going to impress the hijackal in any way. You're doing it for yourself. You are affirming yourself. You are saying, no, what I remember is this, and I have a right to remember that. What I want is this. I have the right to want that. I saw this. I have the right to say what I saw. You are affirming yourself. You are strengthening yourself in the face of all this hijackal stuff coming towards you. You are affirming yourself. And you are creating a little Teflon shield around you that you're not going to take on all this blame that the hijackal wants to shift in your way. So affirm yourself neutrally and use the personal weather report to talk only about yourself, because you are an expert on yourself. Have you ever had that thing where the hijackal says to you, I know you better than you know yourself? I hope you stop for a moment at that point and say, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. That's a power move. That's a power move. I can stop and think about myself, and I know what's going on within myself. And if I need help to do that, I won't be coming to you for it. No, I don't go to the hijackal for help. But talk about yourself only with that powerful personal weather report, and grab a copy of Kaizen for Couples. It's at Amazon. You can download it or you can buy the print book, and go to chapters 6 and 7 and really study it. Chapter 6 is how to deliver a personal weather report, and chapter 7 is how to respond to someone's personal weather report. So very important. Talk about yourself only. Now, here's a tough one, because you are the empathetic person in the relationship. You are going to have to become a little bit more neutral. Don't express sympathy or empathy. They're getting all upset. Oh, I didn't mean to upset you. No, no, no. You didn't upset them. They decided to get upset because they are not going to take accountability or responsibility. And so you have to separate that out. You didn't make them angry. You didn't make them upset. Their perception of the situation and their fear from their entire background of having a flaw, of being shamed, is what causes them to get their knickers in a twist and stay that way. And nothing you do will change that. So just refrain from expressing sympathy and empathy, because you're used to leaning in and maybe going the extra mile and understanding and endeavoring to let them know you love them and you understand them, because you mistakenly believe that if they ever got to that place where they believed how much you love them, they would relax and appreciate you and love you back. They're incapable of that. They're unwilling to do that. So don't express in these moments when we're having these tough conversations about something we'd like to see changed, and they get into blame shifting, don't express empathy or sympathy. And that may be difficult for you because it may be second nature to you to do that. But this is something that we have to learn to do in this very particular situation. And don't apologize unless you were wrong. Don't apologize because they told you you were wrong. Check inside. Was I wrong? Even in the smallest part, own it. Demonstrate that you own it if there was a part that you were mistaken in or you don't agree with how you went about doing it. Own that, but only that. No blanket apologies, no blanket appeasements, trying to get them to calm down, make them feel better. Tell them that it's really not an important issue, and I'm just so sorry I bothered you with it. Watch if you get to those places, because they are definitely power hungry, and you're just handing them power when you do that. So don't apologize unless you actually were wrong. And then only apologize for the part that pertains to where you think you made an error. Own it, be emotionally mature about it, but don't go into the power struggle and get lost. Now, these are all tough things to do. It's tough to stay calm and observe. I know that. You know, Many times I'll talk about it with my clients and they'll say, yes, yes, I get it. And then, we have old patterns. They have ways of getting a rise out of us. Remember, they're looking for a reaction. If you don't give them the reaction, they'll try harder to get a reaction. So your work is to not go into reaction. And it's not being deadpan, it's being genuinely interested and observing, but it is not going into reaction over them. So your task is to stay calm. Your task is to stay centered. Because if you get into anxiety or fear or concern about it, then your body will take over and your mind will be foggy. We've all had those conversations where we really thought we were going to be so clear and things got foggy and then they went sideways. Stay calm and observe. Just observe what's going on. Observe when they shift the blame. And realize, oh, it just became my fault. Don't say that out loud. That's poking the hijackal. But observe, because you want to train yourself to see what's really happening here. And the only way you can do that is to stay calm and observe and then reflect on it later in the quiet. So very important. And resist the urge to comfort the hijackal. I know that you may love them, you may want to help them, you may want to support them, you may want them to love you, which they don't have much love to give. But don't comfort them when they get upset because you said something upset you. Doesn't make any sense, but we find ourselves often jumping into that in an effort to calm things down and to keep things under wraps. And in that, don't drop the guilt. It is not your fault they are upset. You know that they don't like talking about difficult things and they're counting on you to have a fear of conflict. So drop the guilt. If they start dishing it out, trying to make you feel guilty, just refuse to accept it. Teflon. No, I'm not going to take it on. It's not that you're not listening. It's not that you're in denial. It is that I observe what it is and I'm not going to take it on. And this is extremely important. This will help you change things so that you are counteracting the blame shifting without having a fight. They can have a fight all by themselves. They don't need you. But if you don't contribute to it, then you can stay strong and observe. And this is where your powerful place is to be saying, whoa, when I don't get into it, when I don't let my feelings get in there, when I don't react in there, then look at what I see. Look how they go into blaming and defending and name calling and all the things that they do to diminish and then shift the blame back on you. And you need to observe to know who these people are and what they're doing. And as you begin to realize that this is a pattern, you will realize this is a pattern you don't want to be any part of. And so as you do the things that I've suggested that you do, go back and listen to this again. If you need to etch them in your memory, you see if there can be any shift when you shift in those ways. But don't allow those hijackals, narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, borderlines, super passive aggressive people, don't allow them to do the blame shifting. See it for what it is and know that you now have tactics. You now have strategies. You know what to do. I'm Dr. Roberta Shaler. I'm always interested in talking with you. I hope you enjoy the Save Your Sanity podcast. There's over 150 episodes there for you to listen to. You find them on my website at forrelationshiphelp.com. And you'll also find over 150 episodes of my previous podcast, Emotional Savvy, all interviews with experts and very interesting people. Now, I do have something brand new for you, and here it is. Go to toxicrelationshipchecklists.com, toxicrelationshipchecklists.com, and there's a new one there called Is My Partner a Toxic Hijackal? And you can take that there along with the passive aggressive checklist, the relationship checklist, and the personal integrity checklist. They're all there. They're all free. And I invite you to do that because it will help you understand yourself and your relationships, and it's a good thing to do. So until we talk again, you know that I'm going to remind you that you're precious, you're important, you deserve to take up space and draw breath and say what you think, need, want, feel, prefer, and remember, as long as you did not talk about another human by name or pronoun. So, in the meantime, treat yourself as precious as you are because you matter. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Take care. All right. Hello, 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 everybody. Look at all the wonderful things that are in here. All right, let's see what's been happening. Oh, hi, JJ. Glad that you're here. Yes, Carrie, that's Ross's statement. Observe, not absorb. That's a really good one. But it is important for us to learn to observe. And if you could turn on your own Teflon shield and observe the other one, it's a great thing to do. And Carrie says, thank you for your work and your podcast. They're helping. I'm so glad. I hear that frequently, and that makes it why I get up in the morning and what floats my boat and flips my skirt. So I'm always happy to hear that. Hi, JJ. You said even not react to the trash him throwing 100 phone calls and messages in a few hours. Yes, that's what I call emotional surveillance. Hijackals need power over you. So they always want to know where you are, and they demand that you tell them where you are, and they will blow up your phone. They'll put GPS trackers on your phone, on your car. They'll put cameras in your home, all kinds of things. So it's very, very important for us to remember that this emotional surveillance, as well as physical surveillance, of course, they'll follow you, but this emotional surveillance, where are you? What are you doing? When will you be home? It usually takes 8 minutes for you to get home, and it took you 12. What were you doing? Who were you with? All that stuff that goes on. It's so hard, and it's so wrong, and so unnecessary. Hello, Laura. I haven't seen you here before. Welcome. Laura says, why are you creating drama? That's the favorite deflection. Yes, it's all your fault, right? The blame shifting. Why are you creating drama? Oh, they never create drama. No, never, never, never happens, right? They are always the calmest creatures and the rational, delightful, receptive, accepting creatures in the world. Not, no. So a very common thing for them to be saying, why are you creating drama? It's actually projection. You know what projection is a hijackal has big fears about what's true about themselves. And they will tell you what those fears are because they'll project them onto you and say, you have those fears or you have those behaviors. If they think that they have a behavior that's less than wonderful, they'll tell you, you have it. That's why I say never poke a hijackal, because if you tell a hijackal that you think they're behaving in a narcissistic way, you know what they'll do. They'll immediately tell you you're a narcissist. So it never works that way. Yes. JJ said, I didn't react to him, but crazy for many hours, calling me and texting me and asking me why I don't care. Uh, yeah. Well, don't respond to emotional surveillance. Tell them once, here's where I'm going, and I'll be home at approximately. And if they blow up your phone, if they're violent, of course, you have to treat things a little differently. But if they blow up the phone, only answer it, you know, depending on how frequently they call, but only answer it occasionally. You are not to be on that tight leash like that. That is unhealthy. That's abusive. It's not good. Laura said another one of the things that she's heard is, I told you all along I'm an asshole. The favorite way he blamed me for everything. Yeah, I'm off the hook. I already told you that I'm useless. I never expect anything from me. Never expect me to change. I already told you that. I told you that before I married you. Why are you talking to me like this? Typical thing. And JJ said, I don't want to speak at all because craziness and lies just by himself. But he named me doing all the things he was doing. Yes, that's the projection, JJ. Um, you affirm yourself to someone who can't hear anything, he's not listening. You're doing it for yourself. That was the point of that, is to be able to say, no, I know what I know. No, I remember how it was. I know how I felt. No matter how much craziness is coming at you, you affirm to yourself out loud, it's all right, just quietly. No, it's not the way I remember it. And if you don't want to do it out loud yet, do it to yourself, but affirm yourself. All right. Um, Sherry, hi, Sherry. Just in time. Okay, I don't know what's up with you, but I'm glad it's just in time. I hope it's useful information and it will help you. And everybody know there's a 20-second delay between when you put something in the chat and when I see it. So if you have questions for me, now is a good time to put it in the chat because I'm happy to stay on and answer your questions, but just know there is that delay. Okay, here's a question. JJ, how can a young child be free of nightmares? My son was crying and scared of bad people hurting him before he slept daily for a year. Oh, that's really sad. Um, that's an important thing to talk about. That remember that children don't have verbal skills, but they're taking everything in. Like I often say, brain development goes on till we're 30. And I often say that for the first 5, 6 years, really we are just bags of emotional nerve endings, picking up all the time. Am I safe? Where do I fit? How do I get the people to take care of me? How do I get them to feed me? Do I cry? Do I giggle at them? What do I do? What kind of feedback am I getting? Do they love me? Do they take care of me? Do they want me? All of that is going in there without words to these little people. So if your little one had some kind of event where um, felt abandoned, felt scared, felt unsafe, felt anxious, that could be the cause of nightmares. It's a very, very difficult thing for children because they can't tell you what happened. So, the best thing to do in those situations is to go and comfort the child. Hold the child, comfort the child. Now, I know that causes a problem because if the child is crying in the bed, the hijacker wants to demand that they be number one. And how dare you be in that child's room with that child when you should be with them? I know that frequently happens. So you may have to bring the child into the room where you are so the child can have the physical comfort of you, but you can be talking to the hijackal. And even then, sometimes that's not enough. They figure that when the children have gone to bed, that should be your 100% adoration on them and attention. So it can be very difficult, but do your very best to hold the child, to affirm the child, to let the child know that they're safe, to let the child know that you're constantly there and present for them. Just do the very best you can in that way. I hope that's helpful to you. Now, I'm not seeing any new questions or comments of any kind. I really invite you to go and take the toxic relationship checklists. So just go over to my website if you like, forrelationshiphelp.com. It's right there on the screen. And there you will see in the navigation bar free checklists. So you don't have to remember anything more than that. Just my website. Everything is there for you. All of my podcasts are there for you. My blog is there for you. Everything. So, okay. So JJ said, unfortunately, my son separated with me when he was 4.5. Now he's 7. Yeah, there you go. That's it. I hope you're separated from your hijackal so that you can comfort this child. Oh, he's mostly with his father and TV. Is that because it's the child's choice or the hijackal's choice? Who's creating that? Because the child obviously has some trauma if they're having nightmares. Does the father have any insights into what happened to the child? Will the father actually tell the truth? Can you find out what happened to the child? As long as you don't inquire and interrogate the child, Usually, if you're with the child long enough, especially as they're drifting off to sleep, and they feel trusting and they feel warm and taken care of, they will begin to tell you things. It's a very difficult thing. I'm sorry that happened to you and your little one. Such a difficult thing. He's the one hurting the child. Well, it's not a surprise, is it? Hijackals like to have power over anyone, and having a child on their own, they can have power over them. You're so welcome, JJ. It's so important to make up for it. It's unfair as it can be that you have to parent from, to be the super parent to make up for the abuse of the other parent. But we have to. It's just the way it rolls. We just have to do that and make our children feel safe and understood and heard and accepted and appreciated and acknowledged and seen. Always remember, when you're dealing with little people, get down to their level and have eye contact straight across. Let children know that you really see them. That up down kind of thing, adult to child, that's not good unless there's lots of space between you. But if you're close to one another, get down and be at eye level with the child. It allows the child to subconsciously feel safer. I mean, who wants a great big person looming over them? None of us do. I wouldn't like an 8-pound gorilla come in and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" So children don't like it either, and it concerns them. So be close to them. So I'm so glad that you were here with me, and I'm here most Monday nights at 7 o'clock. Subscribe on my page if you like, or also on the YouTube channel. On my page on Facebook is facebook.com/relationship help doctor. And that way, if you subscribe there or like that page, you will get to see what the topic is sometime during Monday afternoon, and then you can join in. In the meantime, enjoy all the episodes, watch all the videos. There's over 520 of them, so that'll take a bit. And be sure to follow up with any questions. I also have a membership program. You can come and be part of that safely off social media. It's on my website. And it looks just like Facebook, but it isn't anywhere near that. It's completely safe and private. So when you go to forrelationshiphelp.com, click on support circles. And when you become a member over there, it's a monthly membership, and you get to come to the once a month Saturday support call, which is $25 for people who just want to drop in once or twice. But when you're a member, you get that as part of your membership at no additional charge. So you can go to forrelationshiphelp.com/circles. So enough about ways that we can interact with one another. I wish you a great week. Be very kind to yourself and take very good care of yourself, because you matter. Talk soon.